The Rugby Championship is finally back after a week off, and for the Wallabies and the All Blacks, all attention and focus shifts to the Bledisloe Cup because they are not a chance of winning the Rugby Championship. There's two games this year, one in Sydney, one in Wellington, and I'm going to give you a preview of this weekend's game. I'm going to give you a few thoughts on the teams, and the weather is looking great. It's a day game, so I'm really looking forward to that, and we all know how the Wallabies did in their last day game against Argentina. But yeah, look, the All Blacks, do they have a better chance in winning in Sydney rather than Wellington? We all know their record in Wellington hasn't been great, and on that, I recently watched the highlights of a All Blacks Wallabies test in the year 2000, where the Wallabies won that. John Eales kicking the final penalty to win in a pretty epic clash, actually, and that was the last time the Wallabies had the Bledisloe Cup. The All Blacks won it back in the year 2003. But the rivalry was very strong back then, often winning one game each out of the two-test season. The All Blacks won the Cup, the Bledisloe, back in 2003, winning both tests that year. And then that year, the Wallabies beat the All Blacks in the semi-final of the Rugby World Cup in Australia, and the Wallabies made it to the final against England, and Johnny Wilkinson kicked that drop goal to win. About 2006, there was a three-test series brought in for the Bledisloe Cup because it was awfully difficult for any team to win it in a two-test series, which we have this year. So if you have the Bledisloe Cup already, a drawn series means you keep it. Keep the cup. Since 2003, when the All Blacks won it back, there's been 61 tests between the two countries, with the Wallabies only winning 10. I think there was 3 draws. Now, that's just my maths. I literally counted each game up, so that might be a little bit wrong. Either way, it gives you a picture that the All Blacks have dominated this contest in quite for the last 20 or so years. But let's remind ourselves of the most recent form. All Blacks have won the last 7 tests against the Wallabies in a row. Last year, the All Blacks won both tests. Only one was part of the Rugby Championship, being in the World Cup year. The competition was slightly adjusted. And then the other test was in a Rugby World Cup warm-up match. The Rugby Championship game was at the magnificent MCG, Melbourne Cricket Ground, and the All Blacks won comfortably 38-7. This is the game when Scott Barrett smashed Tate McDermott off a line-out, and Tate McDermott was on his own line and he dropped the ball. Shannon Frizzell picked it up and scored. Scott Barrett this is the game Scott Barrett was also telling Nick White to shush. Nick White is playing this weekend, by the way, and certainly likes to wind the All Blacks up. The Rugby World Cup warm-up match was in Dunedin, and it was a lot closer. It was 23-20. At one point, the score was 17-3 to the Wallabies. And I did note that Aaron Smith and Richie Mo'unga came off the bench, amongst others, but those two in particular came off the bench in that game and really turned that game around. And we talk a lot about the All Blacks finishing games well or not well. At the moment, Quade Cooper in that game kicked a very important penalty goal. Richie Mo'unga kicked the last-minute penalty to win it. That was the last time those two teams had played against each other. In terms of this year, the All Blacks form has been pretty mixed. They've won 2 against England, lost against Argentina, beat Argentina, and then lost 2 against South Africa in South Africa. The Wallabies form, well, it's pretty expected if you ask me. A number of personnel changes from last year, and of course a new coach. They had a mixed tour of Argentina, winning one game, but by 1 point in very, very poor conditions. Weather was a leveler in that game, let's put it that way. And then in the most recent game against Argentina was a record loss, 26 points coming to from Argentina in the last 10 minutes. Yikes! So let's take a look at the teams this week, starting with the home team, the Wallabies. They've made 5 changes to the starting team, and all of them improvements in my opinion. So they will be a stronger team than when they last played Argentina. Angus Bell, Matt Faisler and Tanielo Tupou forming the front row. Angus Bell and Tupou, very good runners, ball runners, and I think they'll look to try and break some tackles and really exploit the All Blacks in that area. Nick Frost and Jeremy Williams, the locking partnership. Jeremy Williams, pretty inexperienced, but Nick Frost has been there for a little while now, and he is sort of one of the incumbent locks. You've got Rob Valentini, Fraser McCright and Harry Wilson as the loose forwards. Fraser McCright coming back from injury for Tizzano. And I think that is an improvement there, although Tizzano wasn't the problem against Argentina, but Fraser McCright certainly is the key man. Rob Valentini, Harry Wilson, also very good ball runners, so you'd expect them to run it a lot. Harry Wilson is captain. Nick White and Noah Lolesio, they are the halves pairing. Nick White, vastly experienced, and I think Jake Gordon for me is not your man. But Jake Gordon was playing for the Waratahs this year, who had an awful season. Admittedly, Jake Gordon played pretty well, but I think you've got Nick White's not going to be at the next World Cup. Jake Gordon, unlikely. He's getting on now, so I think Tate McDermott's pretty key man here. I'd be sort of, going his way if it was me. Lolesio, he's got a bit of experience there. Hasn't had a great record against the All Blacks, but his combination with Nick White is probably key here. They've both played together quite a bit at the Brumbies. You got Marika Koroibete on the left wing, which is pretty consistent. That doesn't change, although I wouldn't say Koroibete's in the best form he's been in. I'd like to see him sort of step up this week against the All Blacks. Hunter Paisami back from injury, pairing up with Len Ikitau. Ikitau played pretty well, I would say, in the most part, or certainly in the first half against Argentina. Defence just fell to bits, so it's hard to pick out any individuals from that defensive performance in that second half against Argentina. But that partnership, I think, is pretty important here. They're both the most experienced sort of midfield options that the Wallabies do have. Samu Karevi being a massive loss to the Wallabies this year. But I think, Stewart that played inside centre last week, a week and a half ago against Argentina, and he's got future. He's more of a ball skills playmaker type inside centre. I think Paisami's the way to go here. Andrew Callaway moving to the wing for Tom Wright to start at fullback. Those two can swap around. They both cover fullback and wing pretty well, but I think that's definitely an improvement there with Tom Wright coming back. And then you've got Brandon Paenga-Amosa. He has come back from France this year, signed up with the Western Force, I believe. He has played for the Wallabies before, don't know a heck of a lot about him, but he's got a bit of experience, so we'll see how he goes. And then, of course, the biggest talking point in the whole of the Wallabies selection this week is James Slipper. He is going to overtake George Gregan as the most capped Wallaby of all time. I don't think personally he's in the same class or category as George Gregan. However, he is going to set an awesome, amazing record there and quite an achievement, so it's going to be a big moment for him. Alan Alatoa, the other reserve prop, incredible experience there from their prop reserves. Lukan Solakaya Lotu as the lock reserve, and he offers quite a bit of experience as well, so he will come on at some point, most likely for Jeremy Williams. And then you've got Lange Gleeson being the loose forward reserve, opting for him over Tizzano. That's fine. Tate McDermott, Tom Liner are the halves combination on the bench, and both play for Queensland, so play well together, or have experience playing, partnering together. Dylan Peach is the reserve wing, the reserve outside back, but I think there was an injury to one of the wingers from the last Wallabies game. Can't remember his name. Ethan de Groot is back from injury, so he goes straight into the starting lineup for the All Blacks. He has played a little bit of NPC, or our provincial competition in New Zealand, so he's good to go. Cody Taylor, Tyrell Lomax, pretty solid there. No qualms with that. Cody Taylor in a bit of fair bit of good form at the moment. Scott Barrett and Tupavai, they are the locking partners, and that makes sense. Patrick Tuipulotu, I believe, is available, although he's only just coming back from injury, so maybe the All Black selectors weren't too keen to give him a crack here until maybe he's had a bit more game time. Tuipulotu has played a little bit in the NPC competition also here in New Zealand. And then you've got Wallace Atiti keeping his spot at blindside flanker, obviously being rewarded for his performance in South Africa, and I think everyone wants to see him a bit more. Sam Cane getting the nod at 7, which is a massive talking point as well. Dr. Dalton Papali'i, I believe, is available. But Sam Cane, for me, I would pick him, and I would keep Ardie Savea at 8. That's my take. We often you hear of New Zealand fans moaning about playing players out of position. So, well, Ardie Savea, for the most part of his career, his position's been number 8. I think we need to target addressing, the All Blacks need to target addressing the open side flanker position in a different way. So anyway, so that's my take on that. Sam Cane, 2 tests away now from 100 test caps, which is pretty awesome for him. So he'll get there in the next 2 weeks, you'd imagine. Cortez Ratama keeping his starting spot at 9. I like that. Cam Roygaard is coming back from injury. I believe he'll get some game time for Wellington in the NPC very shortly and should make the end-of-year tour for the All Blacks. Damian McKenzie is keeping his spot at 10, and I think you've just got to keep going. You've got to make that commitment, and you've got to stick with it. That's my take. A lot of people want that to change. Beauden Barrett is unlikely to be at the next World Cup. We really got to keep working with McKenzie here. He's been given the keys. You got to give him time. Against South Africa, I mean, seriously, no one did very well for the All Blacks. So, keep going with that. Caleb Clark's back from injury at left wing, and he is the All Blacks' best left wing option. Geordie Barrett and Rieko Ioane do keep their midfield partnership going. Rieko Ioane is under a lot of pressure, so he is due for a good performance and a bit of open space. Against the Wallabies, we might get to see that. Who knows? Will Jordan has moved to the wing to make way for Beauden Barrett at fullback, and I think that's probably okay. Look, the reality is Will Jordan's the future fullback for the All Blacks. That's my take. You can't say, well, he's not a fullback based on one performance against South Africa in South Africa. South Africa in that game, whether they kicked the ball or the All Blacks kicked the ball, there was about 17 or 18 odd contestable kicks, and South Africa won all of those bar one. A lot of work needs to happen. It's not for Will Jordan to get comfortable at fullback. He's had a long-term injury, and his combination with Damian McKenzie is going to be important. But we do know that Beauden Barrett and Damian McKenzie work well together, and we get to see that this weekend, which makes sense to me. But Will Jordan might get some time at fullback later on in the game. And then you've got the reserves. You've got Asofa Umor, Tamaiti Williams, and Pasilio Tossi as the reserve front row. And the biggest talking point there is Tossi getting the option at reserve prop. I mean, Fletcher Newell's injured at the moment, so it'll be good to see Tossi get a run. He hasn't had a lot of game time for the All Blacks, of course, only the one cap so far. Sam Derry on the bench as the lock reserve, which was interesting to me. But look, the All Blacks reserves and the young players coming through. So Titi, Cortez Ratama, Tossi, Derry, guys like that, they need game time, and this is the way to do it. So, the opportunity is against the Wallabies, let's be fair. Luke Jacobson gets the reserve loose forward position, which makes sense. TJ Perenara, half position, reserve position. Anton Leonard-Brown and Sevu Reece, so no fly half reserve position, but when you've got Beauden Barrett and Damian McKenzie on the field, you've got cover there. Look, it checks out for me. I don't have too many issues there myself. I think the All Blacks need to be reasonably consistent and conservative. I know that it should be a comfortable win against the Wallabies. The Wallabies will be a lot better than they were against Argentina, but I think the All Blacks need to build a bit of confidence. They need to win. They need to win this game, and they need to win it well. I guess getting a little bit of pressure taken off them as well, because there is a lot of pressure on them after their 2 most recent performances. So look, I don't think it's not going to be hard to predict the fact that the Wallabies are going to be better. They've got plenty of work to work on. The main things are the defence, of course. I think they just need to stay in the game and then hope for the best. keep it as close as they can and play for the whole game, not switch off in the last 10 minutes. Scrum is going to be an area where I think the Wallabies would struggle, but they do have ex-All Black scrum coach there to help them out, to look to maybe fix that and gives them some inside tips about maybe what how the All Blacks might go. So look, I don't think this game's going to be close. That's my take. The All Blacks have basically put their best team together for this one, in my opinion. I think they've got to win. They've got to win well, and then build some confidence, lock up the Bledisloe Cup, and then mix things up next week maybe. So I've got the All Blacks winning 13+. I do like the look of a number of the All Blacks try scorers here. Will Jordan doesn't go often without scoring. Caleb Clark, his last game against the Springboks, he scored 2 tries, so he's a good try scoring option. And Cody Taylor's in some good form as well. In terms of try scoring form, Rieko Ioane, he'll be very keen to get across the line, so I'd expect him to do that. But yeah, look, there's a few of my thoughts for you. Let me know what you think of the teams and how you think the game might play out. I'm looking forward to a day game. I kind of want to see more of them in general, because you definitely get a better style of rugby. But anyway, enjoy the game, and look out for the review after. Thanks.